It's definitely the people.
Yeah.
Scaling creative. How do we productize that, communicate it to another creative, and expect them to execute on our vision of creative and their vision of creative? When I say the word Apple, what comes to your mind? Everybody say,
iPhone, the
okay, what
company.
about you?
I saw a red, delicious apple.
Cool. I saw a green Granny Smith apple. So it's
There
the
you go.
same
Right.
word, but it's three different interpretations of it. How do we really define what we say when we mean Apple? How do we really define what we mean when we say creative? How do we really define what we mean when we say crush it for this client? How do you scale that? When I was basically 24 years old, decided to quit my sales job, selling advertising. So kind of had an interest in marketing and was like really lucky to land a role, no college, like just through connections and just a sales position, just kind of grinding. And realized I like marketing and had like Gary Vee in my ear of like, go follow your passions, do something you love, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, all right, I'm going to give this whole real estate thing a shot because I kind of understand like marketing, and real estate's pretty low barrier of entry. And it was like, I'm going to market myself because I was helping all these other companies market themselves. So got into real estate and just went all in with like personal branding and like video and photos and like creating a brand for myself. And this was like almost 7 years ago. So it was like fairly new. Like people weren't using video like they are right now. And it took off for me, meaning like I was able to get some business from social media as a real estate agent, which was like traditionally they like knock on doors, cold call, go to all these events, like not a very scalable reach model. And then what also came from it was people asking me for help, and real estate agents and real estate professionals. And so started kind of dabbling and helping some people with like their videos and content and like strategy. And then one thing led to another. I was like, oh my gosh, I can do an agency. And like, what is this? I didn't even know what the model of a marketing agency was. And then started Brantegic, which grew pretty quickly to, a team of over 20. We have a studio in Bellevue currently. At one point we had like 7,500 square feet, but it's about 5,000 square feet right now with multiple backdrops, all that stuff. And then as we grew, our first team member, Mark, he was definitely more, positioned to be maybe a better CEO than me, if I want to call it that, just with personality type and as personnel and variables come into play. I'm more of the entrepreneurial startup kind of guy. Came up with a transition plan to put him in the seat of CEO, and then I could start the next venture, which is now AgencyU, and helping creative agency owners. And so business Brantegic is still in business, just under a different CEO. And then my time and attention is with AgencyU, helping creative agencies specifically. Create a business typically is like kind of our motto, is like, how do we build a business around it? Help people transfer from like maybe freelance, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed, to, okay, how do I turn this into a business, hire people? A lot of the stuff that traditionally is pretty challenging. Systems.
Yeah. Yeah, that kind of next level that a lot of people can't seem to jump to. Going back just a little bit to like, I just really want to understand like it's always a little murky when you talk about like the journey and how the heck you went from, so social media, you mentioned social media and like posting videos and working on your personal brand. You had Gary Vee inspiring you, which I did too. We had all those guys yelling at us basically, for better or for worse. And so that kind of motivated you. All right, I need to do something. So like, what were you posting? What was your thinking? What was like the inner game and goal around like the beginnings of like your personal brand and what you were posting?
Yeah. So when I first started as like an agent, from like a posting perspective, I knew that I needed to be educational and entertaining. So I kind of wanted to like mash those two together. So I came up with like this schedule for my brand where I was like, okay, I'm going to post like one educational piece of content, and then I'm going to do like a house tour. So what I would do is I'd call real estate agents in my area, and I'd be like, love that house. Like, is it cool if I do like a walkthrough video tour? And like created this series on like YouTube and like Instagram that was like Tour with Austin. And then I would just like go film a bunch of houses, do a little like selfie intro, and then whip it together. And then that kind of associated me with like cool houses was more entertaining, and then had the educational side, which would like educate people on the market and helping buyers and sellers and stuff like that. So that was kind of the rhythm that I was in. Like lifestyle photos, I would do like consistent photo shoots for myself and post those along with like educational captions. So that was kind of my schedule, I guess you could say.
Did you find sticking to that schedule challenging, or was that fairly easy for you?
For me, it was easy. I'm like disciplined. So if I could like have some structure to it, because creativity, you know, it's like you sometimes you have an idea, sometimes you don't. But I think
Right.
oftentimes in creativity, if you create some guardrails for yourself and then you just be disciplined within those guardrails, then creativity will come. And if you like, for me, it was really, I'm like super type A, and I was like, okay, cool. I need to post on this day. And then I would just like stick to it and make that my rhythm for the most part.
Awesome. Well, I totally agree with the guardrails.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In your AgencyU, and even with the people that you've sort of helped before that along the way, do you notice that is a problem for a lot of people who come to you? That consistency, that posting regularly, putting content out there regularly, whatever that looks like for them.
Totally. I think it just like, I think the biggest thing, which is 100% understandable, is just the insecurity of I worry about what other people are going to think about me, especially if we're doing something as a business owner where you don't want to feel like a salesy person and like you're just like sell all the time, and it's like inauthentic, and like you lose yourself, and like people are coming up to you and like judging you and stuff like that. Like I think that's probably the biggest roadblock to get over for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
How do you help people get through that?
I mean, like it's the like the easiest kind of picture that I paint in my head is like, I think there's, I don't know, the stat is insane. Like 1 million hours of video uploaded online every single like day, and people don't sit there and judge you. And if they do judge you, then they're probably not your ideal client, or they're
Right.
probably not somebody that you want to like associate with. So it's kind of just
Yeah.
like looking at it from a macro perspective, right? And just realizing people aren't going to sit there and like zoom in on you and like listen to every single word and like break it apart. I mean, maybe some will, but again, thinking about like ideal customers and then like ideal friends, just or like people you
Sure.
want in your circle, you know?
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So, creative wise, like creative skills, what are your, I think I kind of heard like you have a lot of skills, and the challenge was like being able to say no. So how did you go from, talk to me about the process of like, you're building a brand, people are starting to come to you because clearly you're doing something right, to now you have this agency and you're like helping people. What are you helping people with, and how did that come to be?
Yeah. Yeah. When I first started, so like, let's just say if it was just me. So I had a Sony A6000 with the kit lens and a ring light, and then the little shotgun mic that attaches to it. That was my setup. So I didn't have anything fancy, but the clients that were intrigued by me were like even like excited about that, for example. So I was very much like a jack of all trades, master of none. Like I can do video, I could like operate it, but it was never like that great at it. So I think like on my journey of kind of going from jack of all trades to figuring out what I want to do. I mean, I did consulting, I did video for people, I did like lifestyle photos for people, I did people's websites, I did just about anything I get my hands on, which looking back was just not the right way to do it. I don't think, just trying too many things. I mean, maybe it's just part of the journey, but it's not what I teach people to like go through to take the long route. But it was pretty much starting off with everything, and then it kind of dwindled down to the social management, content creation, and then like the strategy side for people.
Awesome. And then I'm super curious about your, okay, so you're doing all that probably by yourself for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then how the heck did you decide, like, I'm curious, did you have kind of a mission from the start? Did you just wing it? Did you hire someone, like work with a coach, someone who's done this before that kind of guided you, like told you how to hire, how to scale, how to grow to ultimately 5 million? Like, what was the inner dialogue throughout that
Yeah.
journey?
A lot of imposter syndrome, a lot of winging it, like all of those things. Like first, like starting off, I was just like, oh, this is just like a cute little like freelance thing. Like this is something that's going to get me by. I'm going to like be able to just like make a living. Okay. We were maybe like 15,000 revenue. I was like doing all the work myself. And then my first hire was a graphic designer because we were doing a lot of like graphics for people. So I was like, I had no idea how to do it. I just went on like Upwork and then found somebody and then like was like, okay, how do I set them up for success? Okay. And then I started creating processes for people and then started to create like a Notion page that I could like delegate to somebody. And then the next like mission was like, okay, I need to get the video stuff off of my plate because that's taking a lot of my time. And then I probably had like 5 or 6 clients at the time. I don't know from like a revenue perspective. And then I like found a freelance videographer that was like, okay, like this is growing. We're growing like really quickly. Like if I paid you like $1,500 a month, could you like shoot and edit all this stuff for me? And that was really like the first kind of into like having experience hiring somebody. And then they eventually left and then had to kind of rinse and repeat. And that was sort of the transition from like just me feeling a little overwhelmed and like on the verge of burnout and like doing everything to like understanding, okay, I could hire somebody, I could do all this stuff. And then was fortunate to have a coach, more of like an executive coach that helped me productize more of what we were doing and then understand that the greatest thing that I can do is find good people and train them and hire them and build them up in order to actually scale and grow.
It's super cool to hear. And you don't have to share, but I'm curious, do you want to share who that was?
Yeah, Alan Anderson is his name.
Okay.
Not
Cool.
even agency specific. Was more of like he's like an executive leader and like met him through church and he was like I think he must have like saw something in me and he was like, dude, like we should connect and like I want to help you out and stuff like that. And then I remember we did like I have pictures of this. We did like a whiteboard session in my apartment and I was just like super confused on what he was even talking about because it didn't make sense at the time. But like looking back, I kind of see what he was doing with us that allowed us to get to where we were.
Oh, that's great.
That's cool.
Well, I just love the fact that you just illuminated so well that we don't do it alone. You know what I mean? Nobody ever really figures it out by themselves. And whether that's a coach or a partner or a mentor or whoever, you know, or multiples along the way.
Totally.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And it was great. You talked about being a jack of all trades. Man, I relate to that and the amount of time that it takes so well. I feel like I did every job I could think to do for a while in the music business. As if I figured out, oh yeah, sure, I can do that. You're going to pay me? Yeah, I can do that. Of course. Absolutely. Yeah.
Which I think is a great, like if people are listening, they're like, yeah, I can do just about everything. I think that positions you as a great leader because it allows you to kind of know everything and like be in it and like understand the inner workings of everything to potentially grow a business if that's something that is driving you because you know how to do everything. But on the flip side, it can like allow you to oftentimes take more than you can handle and do a lot of different things and say yes to a lot of different things in order to serve people and help people. And you have a unique skill set that can do that. So pros and cons to each of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Austin, what do you think has been one of the most challenging parts of growing an agency?
It's definitely the people, right? Especially like scaling creative, you know, because I think like you're creative, I'm creative, we're all creative. And it's like, how do we productize that, communicate it to another creative and expect them to execute on our vision of creative and their vision of creative? You know what I mean? It's like, when I say the word apple, what comes to your mind? Everybody say,
iPhone, the
okay, what
company.
about you?
I saw a red, delicious apple.
Cool. I saw a green Granny Smith apple. So it's
There
the
you go.
same
Right.
word, but it's three different interpretations of it. So
Right.
how do we really define what we say when we mean apple? How do we really define what we mean when we say creative? How do we really define what we mean when we say crush it for this client? You know? And it's like, how do you scale that?
The world is overwhelming. We're constantly being pulled in a million directions, and it's only going to get worse. So much of what we're sold online is about planning, strategizing, and thinking. But doing is the hardest and most important part. The box is where projects get finished. In the box, you'll organize, prioritize your projects, and finish what you start. You won't learn anything new. You'll simply get a lot done and be a part of a small community of doers. Go to theboxworkshop.com.
I mean, for what we teach is getting really like through like standard operating procedures and getting clear on like what your company defines each part of the process, essentially. Like having like niching down is another way to get really clear on it. And then, of course, most importantly is investing into people with your time and then training them to get bought into the company and like what the company is defined by that. And if they don't land it on the first one, like you're not like, oh my gosh, this person sucks, but you're investing into them and you're helping them get up to the point where when I say Apple, we're all saying the same thing.
Love that. Language definitions.
Yeah, it made me the first, and I think you said this. You attack it from a bunch of different angles. Like it just popped into my head, communication, right? Because if you had said, "What do you think when I say red delicious apple?" We all would have thought of that, right? Or what do you think when I say, technology apple? We all would have thought of the company, right?
Yep.
And it is interesting. I have wondered that before. I know Miles. Truthfully, I assume Miles asked you to be on the podcast because, I watched him bump up against, should I become an agency, right? And how do I do that without killing myself? So I just figured, he wanted to, pick your brain for free. But but other than that, I always thought it was really interesting. Like if, I use him as an example. Miles is a really talented graphic designer, but that's not like his thing. Like if you ask him, is that what you do? He's probably going to say no, right? But I know that he's got a really unique eye for things. And I would often think if he's going to hire somebody to do graphics, how can he have a vision for a client and then express that in a way that he's going to give back something that makes sense to him, that's not just totally left of field.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Totally. And that's hard to do. And it takes a lot of patience. And like, that's why I kind of hit on like investing into people. It's like, you're not going to hire somebody and they're going to nail it the first time. Like you're probably going to have to jump on some calls. That's why there's the job function of recruiters out there. That's why there's like, they make good money. It's because like they do a lot of like the vetting process. But then once you get in, that's why hiring is so expensive for companies, because they don't really realize that your time is associated to money and it's expensive to find somebody and hire talent. And once you find somebody good, like you want to make sure you latch onto them and take really good care of them, because to do that process again is just not fun.
And you really have to know what you're looking for when you go to hire somebody. Oftentimes I think people are looking for a warm body. Mm-hmm. And so that's what they get instead of being just really clear and specific about this is really what I need. And then creating a process to find that.
Totally. Yeah, we teach a lot on talent acquisition, and like it's kind of like business development. Like you need a lot of people that you can pull from, and like the vetting process, and it like you kind of want to like do a talent acquisition funnel just like as you would like a client acquisition funnel.
I love that.
Yeah.
Love it. All roads kind of point to like SOPs and systems. It just feels like if you don't have that, you don't have any control over anything. It's just chaos. Talking about sales, like for your agency and everything that you do, really, you need sales, you need a process. I'm curious kind of the full spectrum of like how you kept your pipeline full with the right clients at the beginning. And I'm also curious what do you keep? Is it retainers or is it, just one-off big projects? Like, what does that look like? And then, yeah, how do you structure that from an SOP standpoint? How did you build your sales process?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So sales when I first started was definitely word of mouth and definitely saying yes to whatever I could get my hands on. And then like as we evolved, we grew fairly organically. Like we were pretty lucky to like I was investing in my brand, like posting on social media, like attending a lot of events like locally, and like we were able to grow from that perspective. And then it became a point of like, okay, how do I create some predictability around like lead generation? And there's really like a few different ways. Like one is like warm outreach. So coming up with consistent, like if you're just kind of getting going, like maybe you time block an hour a day to do warm outreach to people that you have done business with, or maybe that are on LinkedIn or your ideal client profile, whatever that could be. And then you're starting conversations. Two would be like cold outbound. So like really scaling that up from like cold email and like sending thousands of messages every single day from that perspective. And then third would be like ads, and then getting like appointments from like social media ads and all that stuff. So that's like the three different like avenues that we teach depending on what the client's like avatar is, what their capacity is, and like where they could likely have the most success. So those are the like likely it's going to start like if I'm a freelancer, it's just going to be like warm outreach, and then dialing in a process for that, and then maybe it's the decision of cold outreach at scale or like some social media ads to create some consistency there. But the goal is how do I create predictability around it, and then understand my capacity so that I'm not overwhelming myself.
Yeah, I love that. Warm, cold, paid.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. But it all starts with like your offer and like making sure everything is like productized so that like I always ask myself, if you were to get Miles, like if you were to get 10 clients this week, would you be super overwhelmed?
Yes.
Right. So we need to say, no, I wouldn't. So what's your onboarding process? What's your fulfillment process? What's the delivery process? Da, 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 da.
Right.
Yeah.
And then for me, like we would always lean on retainers. So like we would take projects, like we would do like large scale productions, like videos mostly, but very rarely would we do like a $500 video or $1,000 video or like a 2,000, whatever it could be, unless the expectation was, okay, we're going to get you into a retainer at one point. And that's kind of like our proving ourselves essentially.
Yes.
But the expectation is always, we only do retainers, but we're going to do this with the anticipation of after this project, we're going to hopefully get you on a retainer.
Nice.
So I could, and we probably will still ask you some questions about that. I could ask you a bunch of questions about AgencyU and your agency Brantegic, and everything about that. But I also want to just take a little detour into the world of endurance. I don't know what you call it, endurance running and
endurance
triathlon.
sports. I was wondering how long it was going to take you and who was going to go first, you or me. So
nice.
Yeah.
I could talk about this all day. So if we want to tack on another hour, that'd be great.
Yeah.
How did you come to endurance sports, and what are you doing with that right now?
Came to it mostly through COVID, just like gym shut down, like thought like mostly worked out for like lifting and trying to look a specific way. COVID came around and I was like, okay, I'm going to do 5K a day for 100 days just as like a little challenge. And then I'm going to do 5 miles a day for like 90 days. And then realized I just like love the mental edge. Like I think like as you're growing a business, like you deal with a lot of stress and like deal with a lot of like stuff going on. And if I could get out and run for an hour or whatever that was, then that cleared my head significantly and allowed me time to be in like flow state, think creatively, like process things. and then met somebody who was a friend of mine, and he's like, yeah, I'm running like 100-mile race. And I was like, what? How's that even possible? And was just kind of like inspired by like the ability that the human body can do that. And that kind of woke up just different avenues of me wanting to kind of test the limits and see what was humanly possible, which kind of transitioned into like ultra marathons, and then did a few of those, and now I'm on like an Ironman kick right now and trying to get faster and da 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 da. So that's kind of the journey, but I think there's a big correlation between like what it's taught me in like business and like the discipline, and like it's very honest, like you can't really fake the endurance sports, and like you can't really, like, it's painful. So just enduring that has like built my confidence, increased my capacity as a business owner, that I think kind of translates into everything. So I love it.
So it sounds like you're in triathlons now. How did you start? Did you start with an Olympic or a sprint and then built your way up, or did you dive all the way in?
So I'm on the 70.3 kick. So like I did, so like the last 2 years I would do like ultra marathons. So I did like the Grand Canyon a couple times, did a 50 miler, did like 100K,
Wow.
da 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 da. And then I was like, okay, cool. I want to try this. I had a bike that was just like sitting there, and then I got injured. I got like plantar fasciitis. So I started riding the bike, and I was like, cool, this is kind of like fun. And then I started like consuming people on YouTube who are like Ironman athletes. And I was like, this is a cool like culture of a sport, like a little bit more competitive. And then booked my first Ironman, like, what was it? This year. Yeah, like a few months ago. And then, or yeah, like 6 months ago, maybe. No, I don't know. And then now I'm just like on that kick trying to figure out how to swim and bike faster and run faster and all that stuff.
Nice. So you didn't go into an Ironman as a swimmer?
No.
Wow.
Literally first time in the pool was in July, and we're in December right now.
Wow.
So I've done 2 70.3s, and then got, I think, three booked for next year, and then hopefully do 5.
That's awesome, man.
I'm not even going to talk about the rookie I just did because it sounds too small.
Yeah. Just on running really quick, like I was telling you before this, I've never really been a runner, but I want to get over that because I do get it. Like it pushes your body, it pushes your mind. There's such thing as a runner's high that's unlike anything else you can't explain. It's really cool. So, but yeah, I made that rookie mistake of like pushing it, hurting my ankle. Mm-hmm. And I think my biggest realization is, oh, this is actually like, no wonder everyone doesn't do this. Mm-hmm. It is not only physically hard, you don't want to do it typically. It's mentally hard, and also it takes a toll on your body. Mm-hmm. I'm just curious for anyone who's interested or taking that first step, like the voice in my head is really loud of like, don't do this because you're going to hurt yourself. Right. And I don't necessarily believe that that's true. And even if it is, maybe that's like the path I need to take anyway. Well, speak on that a little bit, like injury and recovery and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, running, it's, to me, by far the hardest sport. Like whoever invented like go run for fun, like that's like the worst, right? Is like, honestly, it's almost as bad as swimming. Like swimming's pretty bad, but yeah, running is like very painful, especially as you start getting into it. Like your chest feels on fire, your heart rate's through the roof, your body's aching for sure. But I think it's like one of those things that you build up over time, and like not going out and run 8 miles for your first run ever miles would be a good first step, but easing into it.
Yeah.
But I think like it's like what's on the other side of that is what is like most like powerful for me, at least. It's like, cool, like I just ran 8 miles today. Like what other challenges in business or in my agency or in my freelance am I going to be able to achieve that's not nearly going to be as hard as that? Client said no. I have to reach out to clients. Like, cool, you just ran 8 miles. Like that was way harder than getting a rejection email. You know what I mean? So that's how I look at it, where I think it's like builds the confidence that can help you like weather those types of adversities in business and make them not just like that big of a deal.
I love that. Raising the bar for everything. That's cool.
Yeah.
It's so simple.
Yeah.
It's like it changes how you look at yourself. You know what I mean? Like,
100%.
I'm somebody who can do this really hard thing. Other things don't seem as hard.
Totally.
Yeah. Why 4:30 a.m.?
I mean,
What's your morning routine look like?
yeah, I always wake up and get after it. One, I just like love the mornings. So if I can like get it done at 4:30, then or 4 or even 3:30 some days, then it's like cool. Like 5 a.m. comes around, and then I can get into flow state, and I can get a bunch of deep work done before this bad boy starts going off, and like emails and Slack messages and all that stuff. And if I can get into like flow state for a couple hours before any of that happens, then I'm set. And then also, if I was active in the morning, my philosophy is that I believe in physics and that activity breeds activity. So if I have momentum leading into it, and I'm not waking up and getting coffee and feeling maybe a little bit groggy, then that kind of leaks into the day, into my activities. And then like at the end of the day, there's just no way that I could ever do like go on a run at like 4:30 p.m. Like I just can't.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have the energy to do it. It's so many variables and reasons to say no. And I'm married now,
Right.
so I like want to spend time with my wife and stuff. So just trying to get it done as early as possible.
Love it. Do you do any like lifting or any other sports or anything like that?
No.
Nice.
No. I used to, but every time I do it, I'm like, this is pointless for me.
Right.
But if my goal was I want to look more aesthetically appealing, gain muscle, then for sure I would do it. But it's just not in line with my goals. I want to build an aerobic powerhouse, which just involves endurance and just time.
Yeah.
So, especially when you're doing Ironman training, it's like 2 hours a day, 4 hours on a Saturday, 4 or 5 hours on a Saturday. Like it's a lot.
Damn.
I'm in the quote unquote off season right now, so it's more chill, which is good for now.
Love it. I'm curious just to like take a step back a little bit into the other world. If you're working on anything outside of your AgencyU, I think that's, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's like where most of your energy is going right now. Yep. And then are you working on anything else like fun, exciting things on the side or anything like that?
Not too much right now. Like I really worked. There was a time where I was definitely doing a lot of different things, utilizing my skill set, being the jack of all trades. But this year, I've really tried to simplify and go deep on one core area. So that's kind of been my ambition is like, okay, I want to make agency like the best product and like best offering for creative agencies, which takes a lot of time. Like I always think about like the greats of the world, like the Kobe's, the whatevers, like they're just like really good at one thing and like they just have a relentless focus on one thing. So I'm trying to adapt that sort of mindset with like, let's just call it a wheel of like hobbies, spiritual life, relationship. Because if I'm spread too thin from like a vocational perspective, then everything else suffers, So it's like I'm trying to go all in on one thing, do it really well. But there's like ambitions. Like I would love to do more with my wife and help her out with like social media and like course stuff and online stuff. And yeah.
What does she do?
She does like a Botox and filler. She works at a company called Skin Spirit, and she's like really good and like see a big opportunity for her. Like she's got a really good social presence. But it's just like time and wanna all that stuff. And like thing with her, it's like she has to physically be in a location in order to like serve people. So it's like, how do we get her to like, or how do we as a couple like come up with something maybe to like monetize more of her skills, like from an online perspective. So that'd be fun.
Dude, that's a challenge for sure.
Yeah.
Well, so tell us a little bit more about AgencyU. Who is your ideal student, so to speak, and what does it look like when somebody decides, I'm going to dive in and do that?
Yeah. So agency, we like our headline or whatever you want to call it is we want to help people go from operators to orchestrators. So basically, it's like freelancers aspiring to build a business or freelancers aspiring to like productize, and oftentimes it's very much like coming up with a good offer that solves like clear pain points for a specific customer, and then like deciding on the offer, and then we decide on how we could delegate this and make sure that it's profitable, and then we basically reverse engineer the offer in order to make it delegatable, profitable, repeatable, and then turn the yes man people oftentimes into like a business, and help them go from like the operator to orchestrator and see the vision of how they could do that. So that's really who we like to serve.
Is there a particular, what am I trying to say? A particular kind of freelancer or stuff that they're up to that it works best for, do you feel like?
Yeah. Like we serve a lot of people who are doing like video and editing and like social media. So like kind of like packaging those skill sets, like a lot of the skill sets of the agencies inside of AgencyU are like videography, and then like the actual posting of it. And then, and then just helping productize the offer and solve really specific pain points for people, and just kind of be disciplined with the yeses and the nos, essentially.
Got it.
Yeah. Which is a hard thing to do.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, especially when you've been freelancing and you're used to saying yes to everything.
Totally. And it's like hard to like, especially for a lot of freelancers, maybe who are more of like the cinematographers or whatever it could be. It's kind of hard to get out of that and like see what it could be like and incorporate like the business acumen to the creative. So it's very geared towards people who are looking to kind of be in the business side and like work themselves out of it, create some predictability, and have the vision for that.
Yeah.
It's super cool and intrigues me a lot. I love the website, the simplicity, the branding, everything, the copy, what you're helping people with. It's really cool.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about, we ask everyone this, would you consider yourself more of an introvert or extrovert?
Introvert, for sure. Yeah.
And do you said you were good at sales. Like that's one of your strengths. And I think a lot of people assume that to be good at sales, you have to be an extrovert. Do you disagree with that? Or have you kind of trained yourself to be extroverted when needed?
Yeah, I think I'm an introverted extrovert, and I can be extroverted when needed, but definitely am a homebody. Like work at home, and I like love it, and I like barely have I have very little human interaction, and I'm not like disappointed by it. So I think that tells me that I'm more of an introvert. But from like a sales perspective, I mean, I think the mindset is like you're not selling anyone, you're just trying to be helpful. So if it's like, if we go back to our offer, if we go back to understanding the customer's pain points, it's like, do we have something that we could help solve, or like, do we have pain points identified from a specific ideal client profile that we could then use our skill set to solve their problems? Then like, it's just more of like that sort of conversation, as opposed to like you're closing the deal, ABC, like hard selling anybody. So it's,
what's your pain point?
Yeah. It's more of like a conversational type of sale approach, which I think has served me fine, and then kind of relieves the pressure of it. But as long as you have like a framework of how you can ask the right questions and then get to that, and then just be genuine with like the, can I actually help you type of answer, and then actually solving the problems and communicating how to solve the problems, which is your offer.
Yeah. I know you have a singular focus at the moment, AgencyU, and obviously you're going to get back into triathlon season here before too long. What's next? You have any thought about what you might want to build next? Given that you already said you're more of a startup kind of guy, I assume you're going to get to the point with this where it's going to be time to build the next thing. Any dreams or thoughts about what that might be? I won't hold you to it.
Yeah. I mean, I think very like simply, I think like for me, my next mission would be something to help my wife. So like building something with her or building something like for her to help build her platform. That would be my sort of next ambition. Cause like with my current role, like I'm very much in the limelight and I'm like always posting on social media and have this pressure to create content. And like, if I don't create content, then da 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 da, and like ads and blah, blah, blah. So kind of looking or feel excited about like the backseat role and then like positioning someone like my wife to be like the front seat and be like, hey, cool. Like you're going to be this, like, I know the process based off of everything that I've learned. Like, let's put you through it. So that's what excites me. I'm like an operator. Yeah. Like I feel like my brain goes more like operations focused other than like the other end, which is like sales or like front end sort of stuff. So yeah,
totally get it.
Random question for you. When you're running, are you listening to anything?
Yes.
What are you listening to?
Usually some like deep house music, depending on the type of run, or like a podcast.
And what do you have any like top podcasts that you're always tuning into?
There's the Triathlon podcast that I listen to quite a bit, or I like Joe Rogan just because of like the conversation style where you feel like you're in the room and like he interviews like really interesting people and you can kind of get lost in it if it's like an easier run. So I'd say those two have been my go-to. Iced Coffee Hour is pretty good with this guy Grant Steppen. I think he's interviewed some interesting people. I like interesting podcast interviewers, I would say. Is what interests me the most. Like nothing like if I were to listen to like Hormozy on a run, I would just feel like too excited and like sprint back home and like want to get to work. So I gotta like it's more like entertainment sort of stuff.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm totally with you on that. Yeah. For me, it's like if I'm not, there's a clear line between like, okay, I'm trying to like learn something and this is getting me excited to go do stuff in business. If I'm not doing that, it's comedy. Yeah. Like some sort of just conversation that has no meaning whatsoever. It's my favorite. Like
who's that one guy with the mullet?
Yeah, Theo Vaughn. He's probably like my favorite comedian.
Yeah, I love his podcast too. He's on my rotation for sure. Yeah, because it's like funny questions and like questions that you don't. It's not the same script that everybody asks, and then it's not businessy, so it's not like you have to go execute after the run and you're all jacked up.
Does it ever bug you or throw you off that you're training with listening to something, and then oftentimes in races you can't listen to anything?
In the races, from my experience, like the adrenaline is so freaking high that you're just like focused and everything just feels
that
like
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, but I
actually in training, I trained this summer to do a sprint triathlon, and it's the first one I ever did. And I purposefully didn't listen to anything because I'm like, I know I can't, and I don't want to get used to it. You know.
I even have headphones for the pool, like waterproof ones that I listen to while I'm swimming. I'm looking at that black line all day. It's like brutal.
I like that part. So
yeah,
I'm like, they always tell me there's two kinds of triathloners. There's either runners, right, who don't really like to swim, or swimmers who don't really like to run.
Totally,
I'm the latter.
You're the swimmer. So you grew up swimming then, or what?
I did. Nice. I did. Yeah, and it got me back in the pool, which was fantastic for me. It's been great.
Like I love it, but I just haven't figured it out yet. Like I think it's just going to take a long time for me to figure out.
And then you train in the pool and go in open water.
Oh my gosh!
And that's with a bunch of people swimming on top of you, and that's a very different thing.
Yeah, the open water is no joke. I'm going to do the Oceanside Ironman, and that's like ocean swim. And I'm like, I have no idea how I'm going to do this because my open water swims are so much worse than the pool swims.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, in the pool, generally nobody's swimming on top of you, which is nice.
Yeah. Like I did one 2 weeks ago, and it was like I was hitting people and hitting people's head and feet, and they're hitting me, and I like just inhale water and don't know where I'm going and all that stuff.
Yay, fun. Let's do it again.
Yeah. Luckily, it's only like, for me, 38 minutes, 39 minutes, 40 minutes. So
right.
Well, it's cool.
Heck, mine was only 8 minutes, and it felt like forever.
Nice. How long is it for 8 minutes? Is that like a 500?
That was a 300.
300? Okay, nice. Sick.
Yeah. Nice and short.
I'm still on land. I'm still my strength is the bike.
We would love the
bike.
bike.
I can do the bike.
I love biking.
I guess that's probably the easiest, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
No, actually, no.
I don't think so. Especially not after you just swam.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and just like the watts and like the power. Like the power is really hard, and like, that's really what it comes down to. It's like the watts. How many watts are you pushing? Which is kind of like pace for swimming and biking.
Pace.
Or for swimming and
it's all about pace because you hit the right pace and you're not pushing anymore. You're letting the bike do the work and you're just kind of going. But when you get off that, oh man, then it's ooh.
Yeah.
And then I'm sorry, but whoever decided that riding a bike a really long way and then getting off and running, that was a good idea.
Crazy. I mean,
it's awful.
The other thing about this sport is just like how crazy the professionals are. Like they'll swim at 115 per 100 in open water for 2 miles, and then they'll bike 112 miles at 24 miles an hour average pace, and then they'll go run a marathon at 6 minute per mile pace. It's like unbelievable.
That's insane.
Just pushing the human boundaries, physical.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Well, and I love that it relates to, and you can totally tie it to improving you inside your business.
Totally. Yeah.
You know, by taking on these things outside of your business.
Yeah. I think like the common denominator, like one thing for me is when I was first starting as like freelancing, and I would just be consumed in my work and like identified as a freelancer. Like my identity was my work, and my now wife was like, you need like a hobby. You need something that can like pull you away from it. And for me, that was like running, endurance sports. So I think like finding a hobby has been also really helpful for me, and like something that isn't work and doesn't like my identity isn't wrapped in it. And I don't see myself as like just a worker because I'm not what I do. And I like that doesn't define me. So what interests me, and I think that's also another hard thing, like especially as like freelancer or agency owner, is like you want to be identified as like this business person and like this is what you do and da 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 da. But it's not like the best place to be. I think finding the hobbies that can also fulfill that wheel of what makes you who you are has been really helpful for me, at least.
I love that you just said that. We did a whole episode about that you're not what you do.
Totally.
You know, and I noticed, I mean, I've spent 40 years in the music business, and I used to say these words, I am a musician. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize that I was saying that my identity was so wrapped up in it for so long until you get to the point where I'm like, well, wait a minute. You know, I'm a lot of things. I'm not just that. That's something that I do, and I do it well, and I love it, but that's not who I am.
Yeah.
And I do think it's easier to do your business, to do what you do, if you can separate it from who you are.
110%. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like,
especially if you're trying to grow, right?
Totally. Yeah. Because we get wrapped up in like the Instagram and like comparison and stuff like that, and it's really easy to like just strive. And I think there's like it's good to do that. Like I do that, but it's also good to like strive in other areas and like do things that you genuinely enjoy.
Yeah. Cool, man. Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. This was fun. Thanks for having me.
The world is overwhelming. We're constantly being pulled in a million directions, and it's only going to get worse. So much of what we're sold online is about planning, strategizing, and thinking. But doing is the hardest and most important part. The box is where projects get finished. In the box, you'll organize, prioritize your projects, and finish what you start. You won't learn anything new. You'll simply get a lot done and be a part of a small community of doers. Go to theboxworkshop.com. Hey, thanks for listening today. We can't do this without the support of our listeners, so please leave us a review or sign up for our newsletter at subtleartofnotyelling.com. AgencyU.com.